I'm not your average girl. It is tea time with the girls. Ready to take it up a notch.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tea Time with the Girls. I'll be serving as your guest moderator, Miss Biko. Let me hear you say, hey, Miss Biko.
Hey, Miss Biko.
Say, hey, Miss Biko.
Hey, Miss Biko.
Listen, I am so excited to be here with you all. Honestly, I am a big fan of Tea Time with the Girls, and I know everyone saw last week's episode, and I'm happy to say that I've been spending some time with you all this week, and I look forward to what's to come. So this episode, we'll be talking everything trans empowerment, and I want to thank Fox Giselle for inviting me here, and I want to get right into it with what's your tea? So I'll start. This weekend, I spent some time in DC for the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March to meet with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and other Black Lives Matter. Thank you. I'm happy to say that Hillary Clinton went on record in calling the violence against folks like us a national crisis, and so that will do wonders in terms of raising awareness and also channeling funding and resources our way. Daniela, why don't you tell us what your tea is?
My tea, well, my weekend wasn't as exciting as yours. I didn't get to meet Hillary. I just basically spent time with family and brushing up on trans topics. I knew I was going to be here with you girls.
Okay. Yeah. Ashlyn, what about you? What's your tea?
Oh my God. Well, my birthday was last week.
Happy birthday.
And we went to the movies and we had dinner and we saw Stonewall. We're gonna talk about that. I put out an album and thank you everybody for downloading it. I really appreciate all the support, especially from the community. I was really surprised by that because a lot of times we don't really, it has been times where the girls, don't support each other's, anything that the girls do, but lately I've been seeing a turnaround in that, so I'm happy for that.
Hi, I'm Gia once again. My tea, basically, I just worked on with some artists, and I also went to go see Stonewall, which we're going to be talking about it later on. And that was basically it. It was just really much working with an artist.
I guess that brings me to what my tea was. My tea has, first of all, I want to apologize for my behavior for last episode. Basically, the last episode, I was guilty of victim blaming, and I do apologize for that. I guess just to tell you what my tea is, or what my tea was, a little bit of what was going on with me is I relapsed again. And I was during the last episode, that's why I was kind of out of character, and I kind of talked to Ayoko the way I talked to her. But most importantly, what happened with me lately is I had my phone snatched from me from a guy that I was partying with, and it was not a great situation because it was a S6 $750 edge phone.
And phones are expensive.
Yeah, especially that phone.
Yeah.
So I'm back in outpatient right now. I'm back in outpatient rehab, so I'm taking care of that. And on a lighter note, Stonewall was good. We went to go see Stonewall. I went to go see Stonewall with Miss Biko. So
I was there too.
Yes.
It was my birthday.
Girl, you need to see me. You see me? I'm here.
So the way I want this to work today is we have a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time. So I'm gonna try to keep us on track here, but I wanna have a conversation about trans visibility and then move on to healthcare empowerment and then lastly in dealing with the violence against folks like us and especially since we just recently lost Keisha Jenkins in Philadelphia. So starting right off with trans visibility, I want to ask you all before we get into the Stonewall discussion, with only 8% of Americans knowing personally someone who is transgender, I want us to think about what is our role and what is our responsibility in representing the community.
I think our role would probably be representing the community with dignity, representing the community with a sense of grace and poise, you know, because they're not used to seeing that. A lot of people are used to seeing what's on Maury Povich or what's on Jerry Springer.
Right.
You know.
That's certainly what I had access to growing up. I remember...
that was your first transgender you saw?
Yeah, sure, yes.
Maury, she's a man.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then, right. Right.
Yeah.
And so I always think about, how can I, my good friend Kim Milan always talks about leaving maps, not monuments. So how can I leave maps? How can I leave breadcrumbs for the girls who are coming 50 years from now? Did anybody else want to jump in on what you think your personal responsibility is?
Well, I honestly don't. I just feel, for me personally, I live in the world as such. You know, I haven't come to understand. I feel like I do my part for the girls as far as being nice and, you know, helping the girls out. You know, I really can't say I'm gonna strive to, you know, I'm not that type of girl. You know, I'm nice. I don't know how to say.
But I see what you're saying.
You live in stealth.
What happened?
You live in stealth.
And stuff, right? You know, all I can do is for me to leave a mark is not bother nobody. You know, be honest and still, you know, try to remain as fishy as I can possibly can. So that way, because people are straight people are really dumb like that. In a way, yes, you're dumb. Because if you,
they're not dumb. They're just not educated on what it is to be trans.
That's dumb, honey. When you're not educated, you're dumb. So you're.
But like we're saying though, if the only thing that we've known when we were younger is Maury, how would you expect the straight community to know anything else?
Well, I just said it. Don't be a show off. You know, don't.
You know what I'm saying? But the only visibility for most people has been Jerry Springer, Maury.
Well, we have no control over that, huh?
Yeah, but that's all they've seen.
That's what's gonna make us more interesting when if we didn't say that we was trans on Maury, we'd just be another woman and there'd be no show. You see what I'm saying?
But it's problematic when when the girls are going on, they're saying we're a man, and now we're not saying trans. They're saying I'm Jerry, I'm a man. You know,
right.
Maury Povich, is it a man or a woman?
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's just more of a self, you know, what you feel about yourself. If you want to put yourself through that, go for it. You know, that's really what you want to put yourself through, you know, because you could be a real woman, and if you get on that show, they're going to call you a man.
Not a real woman, a cis woman.
Yeah.
What's the difference? A cis? No, I'm talking about when they do those.
So when we say a real woman, then that would mean that we aren't real women.
No, I'm talking about
what makes a real woman.
Well,
right. So cis meaning someone who was born.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, somebody that was born biologically, a biological woman, they're still gonna call you a man on the show because it's in their eyes, everybody's a man or is a woman. So the first thing they're gonna say is man. Even the girls that were, you know, cis, you know. Mm-hmm. They got called men, so I think it's more about what you feel on yourself and if you want to put yourself in that predicament. Now, if you got self-esteem and you get called woman throughout the whole time, more power to you.
Well,
you know?
We were supposed to go right into a Stonewall discussion, but we actually have another host here, Daniela, who actually has experience with representing the community on a national television show. So would you feel comfortable telling us about your experience?
Yeah, no problem. I was a part of a documentary on MTV called True Life, I'm Questioning My Gender Again. I was also a part of Botch Season 2 on the E! Channel. But before I get into that, to kind of piggyback on what you said, my mark to me is I want to be a good human, because I always like to say my gender journey doesn't represent the community as a whole. So when I speak on a national platform, you know, with on MTV or an E, I mean, you want Huffington Post, I did something with them also. I speak for myself. I don't speak for the trans community as a whole. So my mark would be just being a good human, not necessarily leaving a mark as a good trans person, whatever that would entail. But with working with MTV, I transitioned, you know, 15, 16 was the beginning of my transition, and then MTV came along at a time in my life where I had just come out of a long-term relationship. My living situation wasn't the greatest. My employment situation wasn't the greatest. Financially, I wasn't doing all too well. So just mentally, I wasn't all there. I mean, and even I said something about a midlife crisis, and I got a lot of backlash about it, because there are people who are like, well, how are you only 24 and having a midlife crisis? Kind of, when you do stuff with TV, you kind of have to paint a picture for everyone so they kind of understand what you were going through. So that's why I use the term midlife crisis. But MTV, they were there to document a piece of my gender journey, because to me, life is a book, right? And there's chapters in a book. And this one particular chapter, I felt like, I don't know, maybe, you know, being trans is just too much for me right now, because there's just so much going on around me that just being trans was just, it felt like a burden at that point in time. And I feel like they kind of exploited that, because I was, you know, having conversations with trans women and trying to, you know, older trans women, and trying to figure out exactly, you know, what their experiences has been through. Like, because I was fairly young, I was 24 at the time. So I was trying to figure out what their experiences was, you know, being older trans women. And MTV kind of was just like, well, listen, if you're not going to detransition, if you're not going to, you know, go through and have us film you removing your breast implants and, well, medically detransition, physically detransition, because mentally I don't think...
Detransition back to a male.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what they were there to document, and they wanted to document me taking out my implants. Like, they were paying for it. Like, they were gung-ho about me taking out my implants.
Did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to MTV?
I reached out to them for something totally different. And then one of the casting directors happened to call me, and in conversation, I happened to be going through this whole, you know, situation.
Yeah, midlife crisis.
My midlife crisis, right. And
this is some tea.
Right. So I just feel like they kind of exploited my story, and then when it came out, like, the way they edited it, it made it seem like I was, you know, I was detransitioning because I couldn't find a man, and it was just, I was tired of wearing makeup, and because being trans is not about wearing makeup. Being trans is not about, you know, even cutting my hair. It's not about having long hair. Like, that's not what trans is. Trans to me is how you feel between your ears. It has nothing to do with between your legs or how your body looks. It's what is in your mind, in your brain. So the fact that they were like, okay, well, if you're not gonna remove your implants, you know, we're done with you. And
So you jumped to it?
I jumped to it, yeah. I jumped to it.
Do you think they took advantage of you at a vulnerable state?
And that's exactly what they did. Mentally, I wasn't in a right frame of mind, and they definitely took advantage of that. Because before I detransitioned, I always wanted to, like, be stealth. I didn't want people to know that I was trans. I mean, not to say that I'm the most passable, but I didn't want it to be out there that I was trans. I wanted to, like, assimilate into, you know, society. And after detransitioning, it just made me feel more comfortable with the idea of just being a trans woman, being a trans person. It made me feel comfortable with that. So now, like, it doesn't bother me that people know that I'm trans. And before detransitioning, it did. So I feel like I took 2 steps backwards in order to move forward.
How are you feeling now?
Yeah.
I'm good, I'm happy.
How long did you realize it was a mistake?
Probably right after, the day after.
Off of True Life or Botched? I saw your Botched.
Oh, you did?
I saw you, that's the one we had Jessica Wild with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cute. It was cute. They did you wrong, girl.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I said. It was, oh, they did so wrong.
But speaking of detransition, not to like take the spotlight off of my story, I don't know if you guys seen Carmen Carrera just removed her breast implants and then right after posted boy pictures. So what do you guys think? Is she like on the low detransitioning, or she said it's for her modeling career, but I don't know how true that is.
Well, apparently, she's supposed to be on couples therapy.
Yeah, she's on couples therapy.
But they filmed that already, so.
Oh, well, listen, if, girl, I'm gonna tell you just like this, mama. Let me make sure my glasses on straight.
Her reading glasses.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna read you. I just want you to know that you broke a barrier. Now you're gonna have to really take a lot of bricks to the face because people are not gonna look at you the same. They're gonna think of you as a joke now. Whatever. I mean, unless you come up with a legitimate like.
Oh wait, so you think people who detransition are a joke? You don't? Because I don't know if you guys know Kat Black. And she, after my detransition, she said, oh, well, you're putting a bad name for trans people. You're not even trans. You were just a gay boy who wanted to have tits. And I don't think me detransitioning invalidates my transness.
I wouldn't call that.
Because even without breasts, I still feel like I was trans.
I think that some people need to have a deep soul search, and they have to feel that the inside is more than just implants. I think maybe with Carmen, she felt that she did it too quick, and it's complicating some things in her life right now.
I just don't understand. Yeah, that's.
But she I came up with, and we didn't go to therapists. We just got loans on the black market, and we transitioned. We didn't. And I know therapy is an important step, so sometimes it helps avoid that.
Let me just tell you, the reason I feel like people are gonna look at her like she's crazy is because she went through so much. That's like Caitlyn. If she decided to say, oh, I'm gonna go back to Bruce, I can't take it. Everybody's gonna look at her like she's plumb fucking stupid. Like, you have to be, be sure that this is somebody. A lot of the girls are not sure. This is what we were talking about, last time. There are some girls who put it on and leave it on. There's other girls who,
get their life.
Get your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that upon you because look what you're at right now. You was in a moment. We had that discussion again. There was that roadblock. You said, okay, bitch, bam, kick it open. And let's keep doing it. It didn't stop you. You see what I'm saying? It didn't stop you on botch. I saw what happened. I was there, girl. I was there. So it's like, it's for Carmen. It's like, and plus the blog I wrote said that she was detransitioning because her boyfriend likes men. And it's like, well, girl, and this is
that's the real tea.
Maybe true, maybe not true. But all I know is that
this is none of my business.
I hope, I really do hope she's doing it for herself. Maybe she's not detransitioning. Maybe she's taking out the big implants and getting smaller implants. You never know what
there's some girls that get their breast implants removed because they have complications. I had one of my old girlfriends. She had capsular contraction, and that's basically when hard tissue forms around the breast, and then they have to get it removed. Maybe she didn't want to know exactly the reasons why she and she did mention in the video that they looked too they looked too much like implants. Well, so she didn't like how they looked. So I think I still see her as Carmen regardless.
I mean, girl, like even when she wasn't Carmen, she was Carmen. The only time we saw her as the boys when the world saw her as the boys when she was, that first little the little snippet, and it was like, okay, girl, you're Carmen after that. So.
Before we move on, I want to thank you, Daniela, for sharing your story with us and the world. And I want to give you an opportunity to give a piece of advice to someone who's thinking about being more visible in the media. If there was one thing that you learned about your experience in dealing with MTV.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
After all was said and done, after all the shenanigans were set aside and put to rest, what have you decided to do about it? Are you suing the fuck out of those people?
No.
Are we owning motherfucking Viacom?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
You should. You know why? Because sometimes, not starting, but sometimes it just takes that one person to say, this is how we started, that's how you start.
I get it, but at the same time, they exploited it to an extent, but it also helped me because, like I said, it's made me be more comfortable with being trans. So,
I mean,
so it
that's
helped me
cool.
in a way. So I'm gonna leave it as it's a closed chapter.
I still say go have a lawyer look into it. Go get you a cocker for a lawyer, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you. Speaking of, I'm wearing my trans is beautiful shirt.
I want one.
Hashtag
I need
trans
one
is
too.
I
beautiful.
want one.
Tiny one.
Coming soon, they'll be available to the public soon. I just did a photo shoot today. It's actually National Coming Out Day, so thank you all for coming out.
Okay.
And if you're not ready this year, maybe next year.
Yeah.
Honey, just come out. I'm gonna tell you, just come out, baby. It's 2015. They're gonna love you more. They'll respect you more if you do. You just gotta stick to your guns and be happy. If you live in bumfuck Egypt, go to New York. I tell you, they're everywhere.
I think it's just a fear of society judging them. You know, that's why they don't come out. It's mainstream society.
Like I was saying earlier, though, too, but I don't just blame society. I blame the parents. Parents, you are responsible for your children. So anything all that ignorance, all that scariness, all that racism, all that nastiness is taught. You don't learn. It's taught in the home. So when people say, "Oh, this boy just hurt another trans," I don't blame the boy. I blame the parents because you should have taught them better. You know.
Speaking of who to blame, there's a lot of folks blaming Roland Emmerich for erasing and silencing a lot of our trans history in the film Stonewall. So we can't have a conversation about trans visibility without talking about this movie that has broke the internet. And
It broke the internet 'cause it sure didn't break the box office.
If I just may say, real
And that's some real tea.
If I just may say real quick before we get into this discussion, my darling sisters, over here darling, my darling sisters, if you don't know your history, you should go and see this movie. Those who do know your history, go watch the movie. It was a good movie and stuff. Great.
It was actually, yeah,
It
we
was
actually
really
enjoyed
good.
it.
If you
It
don't,
was a good fictional movie. That was not based on true events. It was not based on true events.
Let it be
was a
known-
great storyline for Hollywood, but it erased our history
It is.
completely.
It is, but
we were
those-
not backgrounds in the movement. We were forefront.
Not to give a little bit too much of the movie, but those who didn't know, one of the first girls who threw the brick at Stonewall was Miss Marsha P. Johnson, and she was a queen, honey. She didn't have no tits or didn't, live her life completely fully as girl because the laws back
I think it
then.
was Sylvia Rivera.
Huh?
Who's Sylvia Rivera?
Sarah Rivera is the one who started the homeless shelter.
so I'll bring us back. And it's actually LGBT History Month. October is what we're celebrating, LGBT History Month. And there were many gender non-conforming and trans and drag queens and folks like us who started the rebellion at Stonewall that night. It was actually Marsha P. Johnson's birthday. And I'm
The night of Stonewall?
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also,
The movie did
I
not say that.
Yeah, I was honored to have participated in a film called Happy Birthday Marsha, which tells a truer version of the story about what happened that night. But we have to lift up and celebrate folks like Miss Major and certainly Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson. There are different accounts about what happened that night, but we can all agree because what we know is that when the police would come in and raid the bar, they would separate folks based on their gender identity and tell people if you're a woman then you have to have on 3 articles of female clothing, and if you didn't then you would be taken to jail under falsification charges, right?
Real tough for the girls. Real tough.
And the girls that wanted to be the guys,
Right.
The lesbians, and the trans men.
But y'all like the movie.
I actually enjoyed the movie. I mean, it wasn't as big as an uproar as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more of an uproar, but it actually had a nice storyline to it. There were some things in there that could have been better, like the casting of Marsha P. Johnson.
I did a good job. I think she did an okay for who she was because it was the first person ever doing Marsha. And in reality, if you see a picture of this old woman, she was like RuPaul to the 25th power. So it was like, I think I think they should have put her in drag, like fully kept
Yeah,
it
that's
up,
what I
the
mean.
way they did the Puerto Rican child, you know. But I think
Well, and did you think so Ray is actually Sylvia Rivera's middle name. I thought that they should have been more explicit in that connection. Yeah, that Ray was actually a young Sylvia Rivera.
I'm still kind of weirded out that they didn't bring up Judy Garland, because it was her birthday, but it was also
They did bring up Judy Garland.
I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah,
Judy,
yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
day she died, right?
Yeah, that was the day she died.
She died in Stonewall, and they was like, no, Judy, so that's I can understand.
I don't really.
Judy was their Madonna.
Yeah, it was their Madonna at the time. Yeah.
I don't understand the uproar about it to an extent, because I feel like, okay, although the casting might not have been ideal, although the storyline wasn't true to the T, it was still, the story is out there somewhat,
So 25,000 people actually signed a petition to get this movie banned from
based on the
theaters.
trailer alone.
Based on the trailer alone.
And also, I just want to
say
say,
it's bigger fish to fry than to be mad about a movie.
About a movie.
the reason why I think people are so upset about it, because they're putting the stamp saying this is how Pride began, and it's not how Pride began. It's Hollywood's version of how Pride began, and that's where the girls were upset, because that, from people who were
there,
the Golden Girls from back in the 60s, they don't remember it being that way. They don't remember a cute, handsome, he was fine, who they casted for the
He was
lead.
immaculate.
Huh?
He was immaculate.
He was fine.
Yeah.
He was not the forefront of the Stonewall riots, but it was. I enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of the girls could relate to. The movie was basically about. I doubt anyone's gonna see this movie, but it was basically about.
You should go see this movie.
Two masculine boys back in the 60s who were in a down low relationship, and then one of the boys got caught giving oral to another boy, and then he got kicked out and became homeless in New York City, and became friends with Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia
Yes,
Rivera.
give the whole movie away.
Right? They're not
More
gonna see
people
it,
not want to see the
but,
movie.
but Stonewall.
Oh, okay.
So, actually, I think some of the issue that folks were having with the movie is that we continue to see this over and over again, where they continue to cast cis people in trans roles, as if we don't have trans actresses or trans actors to be able to play these roles. So, what do you think about that question? Should cis people be playing our roles?
I think it depends on, and it's no shade to my LGBT, because I'm for you. I'm like 4 flat tires. I'm down. But I feel if you audition and you got the part, you got the part. You can't really get mad at the people getting the part, because obviously if they hired somebody straight, it's not that nobody LGBT went and auditioned. I'm pretty sure if they gave somebody who actually gave their all, who's LGBT, this is my just opinion.
From a blog I read, it said there's a shortage of trans actors in Hollywood.
Well, I think that there's a shortage of trans roles. So a lot of people are calling for trans actresses, but I think we also need trans writers, trans directors.
There's a shortage of quality trans roles, because when I lived in Hollywood and I was an actress for a very, very short time, the roles that were usually offered to me was the drug addict or the hooker, street hooker.
Okay.
And I was gonna say that I think that I don't have a problem with cis actors playing trans roles, but you have to at least embody it. You have to nail it. You have to actually, portray the person in a good
Like
light.
how Hillary Swank.
Give your 2 arms.
In Transparent on Amazon, they had one of the writers, Our Lady J. She is basically, she was helping Jeffrey Tambor, embody Mora. So I think we need, someone there to say, okay, this is how it's done. This is what the girls give. This is how the girls act, not just a straight man's thought of what a trans woman acts like.
They just won an Emmy too, so.
Yeah, Transparent, I think they got it right. Transparent. They definitely got it right.
I also love Transparent. Shout out to my good friend Trace Lissette.
Oh yes,
Trace
I love
the
her.
Face. We love you so much. And
Mizrahi?
Yes, Mizrahi, 5,000. Yes, we love you.
5,000 work. All right, bitch.
But and then also Law and Order. I don't know if you saw Law and Order 2 weeks ago. they did a story about a trans woman who was beat to death, and they casted a cisgendered straight man to play a trans woman again.
I don't think he was straight. I think he was just some bunny.
Well, he was straight acting, and I think that, you know, there's so many. There are trans actresses out there, they just don't want to cast them.
But a lot of these trans actresses don't want to play. Okay, I'm going to explain something to you. Anybody out there who's an actress, LGBT, you're getting paid not to, sometimes you're getting paid to be straight, you're getting paid to be crazy, you're getting paid to all that. So you really can't get mad if you're a trans woman and they want you to butch it up. You're an actor. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then we'll have, you know, a discussion like this, and then the girls will start reading them for
this is why
misrepresenting the trans community. So it's like they're damaging.
And then you have to ask yourself, would they make a woman, a female, a cisgendered female, butch it up for a role?
Yes, they're actually doing a movie right now with Dakota Fanning's little sister. She's actually playing a trans man in a movie coming out, I think with Julianne Moore or I forgot. Oh, I'm getting it wrong. Sigourney Weaver, one of those Hollywood actresses. She's playing the mother, and it's coming out. I forgot the name of it, but they have done Boys Don't Cry. You know, they do.
Yeah, they did the Boys Don't Cry.
And sometimes if you're trans and you wanna, you know, act, just go for it. Really, just go for it, because, you know, sometimes it's the stepping beyond the lights that's scary. So you have to really go for it. You have to really go for it if you want it. If you want it that bad, taste it, evolve it, get hungry, go for it. You will do it.
Even if it's a bitter taste.
Even if it's a bitter taste, if it tastes like vinegar
Or semen.
Well,
Pineapple.
moving on from the conversation about trans visibility, I know that one of the topics from last week that got pretty heated and
Last episode.
from last episode was about trans healthcare and the access versus the barriers that we face in accessing trans-confident healthcare.
Okay.
So I just wanted to kind of get a little more personal and hear from each of you about your experiences
Trans healthcare?
in accessing healthcare and the barriers that you face and the choices that you've made.
Okay, well, last time I got a lot of flack for it. Really don't care. I still look good. And I still feel the same way. I feel there are insurances. If you want it that bad, go look for it. I had made what I did. Let me rephrase what I said the last time, because I said something about the FDA. The FDA. I didn't mean it as you can get free loose silicone off the FDA. I meant it as, you know, if you wanted to find good insurance and good, you know, people to work with, the FDA does give you a list of, you know, people who take certain type of insurances. Now there are insurances out there that will help you accommodate your needs as far as being trans. It's all about how you go.
But they're not going to direct you to the next pumping girl.
They're not gonna direct you. I probably should have clarified that.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's going to have to be something you're going to have to get on your own. But not that we're advocating that. You know, I'm not advocating that. I've been pumped myself, but, you know, and I got pumped at a pumping party when I first got pumped, but I wouldn't advocate getting pumped nowadays, because, you know, I don't know what they're pumping the girls with. I mean, you got girls pumping girls with flat, you know, fix-a-flat, and I mean, Ms. Rico, would you advocate for pumping the girls?
Well, there's what Janet Mock calls an underground railroad of resources that we've been able to bring together as a community to get the health care that we need, because I'm not sure, I think you were coming from Florida and now you're in New York, but where I come from in Ohio, there certainly weren't any trans competent doctors or providers that would give the girls hormones. And so when I was starting out, we actually bought them from alldaychemist.org. And then for needles, I tried to get a needle exchange program or try to get needles, and they wouldn't allow that in Ohio either. So we went to a veterinarian website so the girls could have access to clean needles. So
by any means possible.
By any means possible. So
The chase is
I don't trust the FDA, but I think that especially when I heard that they allow so many rat hairs in your food, or so y'all haven't heard that?
What?
Or so many insect droppings in your food. I think they said you can have maybe 3 or 4. Did anyone else want to talk about their experience with?
But there was a time where I was self-medicating. I don't know how many girls have done that here.
What do you mean?
I have.
Meaning I was just grabbing the estrogen bottles, buying at black market. I've done it.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous because you don't have no one to monitor your transition, your blood levels, and your testosterone and your.
Girls have had strokes.
You know, you need to have a doctor that's going to be monitoring those blood levels.
The good thing now is, especially with Medicaid, there's a lot of insurance coverage that you can get that will cover the HRT. But it's the matter.
HRT stands for hormone replacement therapy. Just in case you girls don't know.
But it's hard. It's another thing finding an actual provider, a doctor, who will prescribe it to you. Because the insurance will cover it, but okay, now we have the mission of finding a doctor. So.
Was she saying small towns or just period?
Period in general. I mean, there's not a lot of doctors who have, dealt with trans people, so they don't feel comfortable prescribing it. So although your insurance will cover it, I can't find a doctor who will prescribe it to me.
I'm gonna say that if you're going to transition, make sure that it's your transition and don't transition off of someone else's transition. Basically, you know, oh, honey got some moans, I'm gonna come over and get a shot and then get another shot 8 months later. You know, your body, you're sending mixed signals to your body and you have to be consistent with your transition. So before you know it, you'll be gaining weight, losing weight, having hormonal imbalances and going crazy in your head like I was going through things where I was like getting emotional, I was just crying, and it was just overload because I was just having too much estrogen in my system. So
Wrote the great album.
Heartbreak.
Yeah, and I heard a story too where a trans woman was getting hormones, black market, from one of her good Judies, and at first she was giving her estrogen, and then after a while she started giving her steroids instead of the estrogen.
We had a girl, Brooke. She was on the show, season 1, episode 5, and she actually put steroids in her estrogen bottle, and she was growing facial hair and everything. The girl was sabotaging her transition. That is
shade on top of shade. It makes you not want to trust the girls when it comes to, getting hormones. Because I know when I was growing up, I used to go to the hormone lady back in LA. And, she used to give this hormone called Gravitinola. And it was called Brick Breaker because of the fact that it broke you. Yeah, Brick Breaker because it would break you down. And they still sell it, but they sell it in TJ. Not advocating for you to cross the border and get it, but anyways, it's called Gravitinola, and it's a very strong Mexican hormone, and it would just basically break you down to the point where not any muscles or anything that you had, it would just soften all that up. And I was addicted to it because of the fact that I saw results after the first or second week of taking it.
But I do want to say you don't have to be taking hormones to be trans or to transition.
That's true.
Because that's something you guys touched on last time, where Aoki said, "Well, you're trans from the moment you first take your hormone shot." I don't agree. I mean,
I didn't agree with
if
her
you feel you're
either.
trans in your mind, then you're trans. You don't have to be physically transitioning to be trans.
I'll actually come out and let the viewers know and y'all know that I'm actually not on hormones.
Me?
So we have 2 cast members who are now on hormones.
Yeah.
I don't take hormones on a regular basis. I take hormones maybe once a month because I don't like the way it interferes with my thinking.
With your
and my moods.
So can we actually go into
I also, so we're all coming out. We're all coming out one by
National
one.
coming out day.
come out wherever you are.
So I don't take hormones either because when I was taking them, I had enormous weight gain and I was just emotional. I was a wreck. I didn't like how it was making me feel. I felt like I didn't need the moans to make me feel like Ashleen. I was Ashleen already. So
what was that hair flip, Gia?
I take my mom, bitch. I don't know what y'all doing. I take my motherfucking mom, bitch.
And that explains why she's a little loopy in here.
Hey,
No, but
but moans have different effects on different people. Some people you actually can see it. Some people are on moans and you can't tell. So it's everyone's body reacts differently to the moans. So just because someone's on moans, I'm gonna get a B cup or a D cup too. Everyone's body reacts different to moans.
Wait, but let's clarify because I noticed in a lot of the comments that a lot of people were trying to get on us because we were gathered on Aoki. And hey girl, and it wasn't that we were getting on her. She was just, I feel like I was just trying to convey to her that You know, you can't jump in one day and be a boy and then be a girl and then expect people to call you transgender. You know, you can't.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
You were going through something. She said it here. She said 10 years on and off. You know, so.
But she still has trans experience. So she is still trans, although she may not be expressing as female. She's still trans. She has trans experience.
Well,
I don't think clothes define your woman.
No, and
because honey, sometimes I want to put on a sweater and sweatpants. I'm a boy. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. I think you're thinking about it.
Oh my God, we're gonna get fired off the show, Ashley.
Yeah, but no,
actually,
it's always gonna be Ayoki.
Actually, we were gonna save this for later on.
Okay, yeah.
We're gonna save this for later on, but now since we are talking about this, Ayoki has a message that she wants to send out, and we're gonna go ahead and watch the video.
That.
Hello everybody, it's Ayoki Lee. A couple of weeks ago, I found out that I had bad kidneys and I have a bad liver, so they told me at this point in time I couldn't take hormones. And of course, all y'all ladies out there know, transgender supporters and transgendered women know that if I can't be the best, there's no need for me to even play with it. So I feel like at this point in my life, I'm going to take a step back. Never closing the option, but still at this point in life, what's going to work best for me. I felt like I owed the fans, the people who have been very supportive of me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. I just wanted to let y'all know that it doesn't change who I am as a person. It's just changed the physical. And I just want to let you guys know from me, not from the girls on the show or anything, that this is what I'm going through and life changes that I'm making. I also want to publicly apologize to someone who kind of gave me an awakening, Chandelier. I want to apologize for being catty because I was very catty with the statement that I made about her. She's a great transgender role model, actually, because she's actually out there doing something where half of us say we're role models and all we're doing is reading the next girl, and that's really not in the spirit of sisterhood, and I was a little hypocritical by doing that. So Shandy, I apologize for anything I might have said that might hurt your feelings. And I want to just say, go get them girls, this trans movement, let's go, let's get them. Bye, see you later, ho.
So as we were watching that video, I couldn't help but notice your face that you really wasn't featuring that, Gia. You have something to say?
You know, I love you, sister dear. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. When we did speak briefly upon it, girl, you told me that if you couldn't take your hormones, that you didn't want to do it, and I just felt like you gave up. No shade, you're always going to be my sister in my heart, you know, so I let it go from there.
Well, that's why I said in the last episode that Caitlyn Jenner is an inspiration, because it shows.
Keep going.
Caitlyn Jenner is an inspiration.
She's visibility for us.
Because she shows that at any age of your life, you can go from male to female, female to male. You can transition at any point of your life and be successful at it. That's why I said that Caitlyn Jenner she's a role model. And
do you think it makes us look like a joke? Is that what you're...
And not a joke, I just think now how do you, just like I just said with Carmen, how do you expect people to take you seriously?
I mean, I don't agree. My message to you, Boo, is I respect your gender journey. I respect your gender journey. Everyone's journey is different. I mean, I don't like the fact that her reasoning for detransitioning or for expressing as male now is because she can't take hormones, because I feel like you can...
4 reasons right here.
I feel like you can still be, we just spoke about it, you can be trans and not be on hormone therapy, but at the same time, I respect your gender journey.
Well, she spoke about the healthcare aspect of it and talked about
that she had bad kidneys.
That she was struggling with that, and why it's been so important for me to kind of get back to the basics of my faith tradition, which says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of our Creator. And so I wanted to kind of pivot, still talking about empowerment and healthcare, but thinking about mental health. When we are hearing reports that 40% of trans people are attempting suicide, we know that the number that are considering it is much higher. And so when we thinking about last week and victim blaming, I wanted us to kind of share our experiences with mental health. And we know you don't have any issues, Gia. So if any-
No, not at all. I was like, are we ready? Let's go. No. I just victim blaming. I still feel the same way. I just feel like,
So you still feel that people that commit suicide are cowards?
yeah, like there should be. Listen, and one thing I will say is that I did learn something new over the course of time from last time, is that people who it's normally the percentage of trans people who commit suicide are the white trans people. Any minority, or as far as blacks, Hispanics, are more homicide. So I did learn that, but I still feel like it's a cop-out, my darling sisters, because
I don't think that's fair. It's not fair. That's actually mean and cruel.
It's not.
It's not just because you were able to overcome your adversity and any obstacles you faced in your transition. There's these people that are coming from rural cities who have no access to anything. They don't know another trans
But
person.
if you want to go deeper, let's just say I don't blame you guys. I blame your parents, because, like I said that earlier, this is taught. This is if you have a support system at home.
But their parents don't know either.
How is suicide taught?
No, like you get taught hate and if you put on boys don't do this and boys don't do that and society's gonna look at you and this, and that's taught by your parents. The first people that had to tell you something about yourself is your parents.
But they in turn learn that from their parents and their parents. This is so ingrained in our culture and our society.
That's why you get up and you leave.
But people, not every trans person has to do that.
So they did get up and leave. They got up and left this life. I think that when we can rethink what it means to be a coward, or that perspective, because who's the real coward when we wake up every day and have to deal with the oppression and have to deal with the struggles of living in this world that tries to tell us that our lives don't matter. So someone may actually think that persons who commit suicide are brave, and that when my friend was saying they're committing suicide, they felt brave because they said, I want to see what's out there. I want to see what's next. I want to see what's coming after this life. So are we the cowards for saying, well, we're just going to continue to wake up and deal with this shit every day because we're afraid of dying?
I just can't.
That's deep.
It is. I just feel like, in a way, I just feel like that's my opinion. I don't wish it upon anybody, but it's a cop-out. It really is, because life is so much better. After all the struggles we've all been through, we're still sitting here smiling.
But that's
and still
us.
living.
We're all strong.
If it can happen for us, it can happen for you. You are the person who's in control of your own destiny. Just like you decided to take your life away, you can decide to live and be fruitful and be merry and do all that other stuff.
Because now we have platforms like this, Tea Time with the Girls, that show them that they can overcome
well, like
it.
I said.
But when someone like Ms. Biko was saying, if someone's being told every day you ain't shit, you're a faggot, you're a homo, you're a tranny, you're never gonna be a woman. When you hear that all the time, you feel like, okay, you're gonna cop out because you have nowhere to turn. Like Leela Alcorn, I'm saying it right.
And it's certainly not just white folks like Leela Alcorn, because I think about Blake Brockington, who was one of the first black trans men in high school to become homecoming king.
Yes,
shout out to him. See, but he moved on. He persevered. He committed suicide.
Yeah.
My bad. I thought
That was the Moans.
That was the Moans.
He committed suicide because he felt dealing with
I don't understand. It's just me. I just don't understand. How do you go from because if you're voted homecoming king, right? That means you obviously had friends. You obviously had people that had to vote.
But what about when they go home? Not everybody, you can have friends, but then when you go back home, that could be the worst place for someone to be.
Yeah,
leave.
exactly.
And that could
leave.
But some people don't have the means for that.
They have nowhere to go.
People are naive. Just because our mind is open to the bigger picture and the world around us, some people, they don't have that mindset.
And Gia, have you never struggled with mental?
Oh yes, all the time. That's like I'm gonna tell you what I tell everybody else. in a long time from now, when we become real good Judies, I will sit you down and give you a little history of Miss Gia. And you will be like,
I don't want a long history. I just want you to tell me, and in fact, not even me, tell the viewers, instead of saying you're a coward, tell them that I've struggled with mental health and this is how I've overcome.
yeah, well, okay. I had, like I said last time, I had grew up in a very predominant, Puerto Rican Cuban household, and it was hell. It was give 'em hell, Rydell. And from the verbal abuse, from the family saying they like you and then one day they hate you, from just the worst, the absolute worst. But what happened? I had a bigger picture in mind. I had, wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to, be Gia, and nothing was gonna stop that for me. And that's what kept me going. When I realized that there was a place other than Orlando, Florida, that was accepting, and that's what, like I said, it also comes with a good support system, because it was a girlfriend of mine who said, girl, come up to New York. It's better for the girls, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Ain't nothing for you in Florida. And I let go of my dog, I sold him, and I just headed to New York. And you're gonna have struggles, my sisters. You're gonna have all that, but it's up to you to knock these holes out and keep going. But not literally, but in a sense, just keep going. Because like I said, you're the only person who can take care of you. And you're the only person who's gonna, who's the director of your destiny.
You're the entrepreneur of your life.
Yeah, of your life. And trust me, my friends, there is so much out there for you. I promise you, it will get better. So,
and we can make it better.
And yeah, we can make it better.
And if you are struggling with suicide, there are certainly resources available to you. So please reach out to the Trevor Project if you or someone you know is dealing with issues of suicide.
So now knowing your backstory, just real quick, now knowing your backstory and the struggles that you face in your own transition, I challenge you to show some compassion.
I do. Every day when I have my gay children come over and I try to treat them well. I do when I invite numerous girls to my house for dinner. I do, it's like I just go on and I just do, like I said earlier, you each one teach one. Share with another, love another. You can't change the world overnight. But you can still be as good a person as you want to be. If they ask, because sometimes you can't tell girls shit. Sometimes you really can't. So that what you do as a true supporter, when you see they need that support, then you support. But then otherwise, you mind your business and just do what you can do. Love, share, teach.
So calling them cowards is not support. But we can move on.
It's my opinion, mommy.
I know. I'm just saying that's not support.
If that was the case, a lot of people would say you were silly for going on TV and humiliating yourself like that.
That's right. That's your opinion. Exactly. I don't feel like I humiliated myself. I was telling my gender journey. What I'm saying is your definition of support, calling someone who commits suicide a coward, that's not support.
Well, I think it's better off than just letting them do it.
Well, I want to talk about violence and all of the many forms that it manifests in our lives.
Since we are talking about suicide, it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Last time, it was 18, wasn't it last time, the last episode? And it's now up to...
We actually don't know, right, how many girls have been murdered.
But what's documented?
What's being reported. The numbers range anywhere from 20 to 25.
That's about the things I've heard.
And thinking about trans folks or folks like us who have been murdered this year.
My thing is that there's a lot of conversation around the number of deaths in the trans community this year. But my thing is let's stop focusing so much on the deaths and let's figure out resolutions. How can we change the path that we're on?
How do we do that?
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
I was thinking maybe we're having a conversation about, because what we're seeing here is a lot of times it's black and mostly black, and lately I think it's been black, right?
Yeah,
black trans women.
Being murdered by their lovers?
They're being murdered by black men. So I was just coming to the conclusion that there might be some self-hating going on here. It must be some, the pressures of a man being masculine, and then when they see a trans woman, I can't even think that, because a lot of times they're having sex with the trans women, and then they're being murdered afterwards.
That's why it's been so important for me to contextualize the violence that's happening to folks like us within the larger conversation. I went to Ferguson and I fought on the front lines for Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice. And it doesn't feel like that's being reciprocated when one of our own is taken. And in fact, it's, what you say is very true. A lot of the times, it is black men killing us. And so I think it's important to bring that into the conversation, which is why I went down to DC for the Million Man March. Because somebody has to do that work, and I think that that's my job as a black trans woman to do that, working with Black Lives Matter. But also, like, we went to Afropunk this year.
You also did something at Janelle Monáe's concert too,
right,
with the Black Trans Lives Matter.
Yeah, it's been important.
So you've been on a roll with this.
Yeah, I'm just really trying everything I can, because I honestly, I'm working with a lot of the families of the victims, and thinking just about ways that I can provide support as a first responder. And oftentimes it looks like fundraising, because even like when they die, they don't have enough money for the funerals. And so it's about giving them the dignity that they didn't have in life. With Janelle Monáe, she released a song called Hell You Talking About, and mentioned many of the names of people who were killed by police violence in this country, and didn't mention any trans folks. And so me and a group of friends, shout out to Josh and Jamal and all of my GNC Judys out there, we covered her song and included the names of the black trans women who have been murdered this year. And Janelle Monáe actually saw that. The video was viewed over 100,000 times. And when she performed that song in LA, she included Maya Hall, who was a black trans woman murdered by the NSA in Baltimore. So what has been y'all's experience in dealing with anti-trans violence, and how did you overcome?
Honestly, I got more bullied in school, you know, but all that stopped. No shade, I'm not saying this works for you, because I was somewhat, okay, how can I say, I was popular, but it was a good, bad popular, because I was the only one openly out and, you know, claiming to be trans, and I'm this, and I'm that, I'm gonna be the next, you know, drag superstar. I didn't know no better. Drag superstar. And, you know, and all I had to do was just lose my mind once, and it just, you know, that's it. Sometimes you just have to lose your mind once, but this was in school, so, you know, but after that, the more I transitioned and the girlier I got, I didn't have that problem as much as I, you know, would say. You know, I've been blessed, knock on wood. You know, I have been blessed not to have much, you know, of a problem. But, like, you can't, you know, fool everybody all the time. So there's going to be one person that's going to get it, and it just depends on...
I don't feel like... we're not trying to fool anybody.
Yeah, I really, you know, you can't... No, because the reality of it is you want to blend into society. So it's like, you know...
You want to blend into
society. Oh, well, then I want to blend into society. Okay, let me keep it on me, then I want to blend in. Yeah, I want to be I.
And I think us not blending in was what helps also.
But I've always
being
been
visible.
Exactly. But I've always been told I was always been the one to blend, so it's like that's when I said that's, you know... How you doing? You know, just yeah, that's just my, you know, my little personal, you know, effect and whatnot. But I really don't have a problem like as much as with violence and stuff. You know, if anything, I've probably gotten, you know, more bad comments by women, by the cisgenders. You know, by the cis women.
What do you say?
They always go to the same thing. You want to be me and this and that.
Well, I think a lot of the times they do feel threatened. They do feel threatened.
But you know, that's like very once in a week. I will say this, I get a lot more stares than I do comments, and they're usually by children. But you know what they say, children, they
tell the real tea.
They get you, you know, because their mind is so clear from the bullshit that they can see right through that.
T.S. Madison says children and animals. She says a lot of dogs and cats.
Well, oh my god. Because animals,
She went to a whole argument with a dog one time to just yeah. But what I do want to say is I feel like a lot of the times the reason a lot of the victims happen to be Black and Latino is because of the environments we grow up in or that we live in. So I feel like our environment, our circumstances happen to cause us to fall victim to these kinds of attacks. I feel like white trans people they're more privileged, so to speak. So they don't live in the hoods and in the ghettos and in urban
they have
areas.
a more support system too sometimes. Because one of the things I wanted to say about the violence, and it kind of ties into cyberbullying too, is that I noticed in the Black community there's a lot of people in the Black community that encourage the violence by doing simple things like, you remember that picture of Maya Scott that was floating around?
Oh
with,
yeah, the caption, "These are old men."
Yeah, with a whole bunch of girls. Yeah, you saw that too. And it was just floating around, and I was reading some of the comments, and one of the comments that I read was like, "This nigga better never come around me because I'll bash his motherfucking head in." This is from a straight guy, you know. So and he got about 6 likes.
But I've had like men try to talk to me, and when I deny them, then they want to let me have it.
Yeah,
they want to call me a homo, faggot, he, she. But you know, before then, if I was gonna be, you know, fast and you know walk down the alley with you, you know, I was gonna be the most beautiful thing in the world. But I think, and with some of the trans murders, there was one where the girl wanted to break off the relationship, and then he met her, killed her, and then ran off with her car. Do you remember that? The one that was the football player.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They had the kick
message.
I think her
She
name
was-
was Mia Henderson.
She was in Texas, right? Or somewhere down south.
She was in Virginia, I think, and I think, and she was conversating through Kick with he was her boyfriend. He was in a DL, and he was in the football team, and she wanted to call it quits because he only hit her up at night. There was conversation, and he met with her and shot her.
Well, a lot of the comments that I'm seeing too are, of course, about pussy stunting, like you shouldn't have been trying to fool them. But I think a lot of it is around too that the girls are perceived to have been doing sex work. So they're saying that because I think that this plays into the perspective of the police and certainly just the culture or the climate in the community, that because they were doing sex work they deserve to die or they don't deserve to have justice.
We're still human.
Yeah.
But I do want to say to you,
and that's one thing I said in the last episode about, do we bring it upon ourselves? And I take that back because I don't think that all that matters. I think that the victim blaming is wrong, and I think that what it depends on is that we're still human. You know, whether we lie to a guy and say I have a vagina or not, that still doesn't merit you to pull out a knife or pull out a gun and feel that because I lied to you, then you should kill me. Because if that's the same case, there should be women killing men all the time when they lie about being married.
Right.
Being married.
Or when they lie about their penis size.
Oh, doesn't that want to make you kill somebody?
Yes.
Just go all Dolores Claiborne on them.
But what I did want to touch on real quick, since I'm here with you, is I respect all the work that you do, but I feel like sometimes I'm turned off by the movement that just singles out saying Black trans lives matter, because I feel like all as trans coming from different backgrounds, we all go out and face the same dangers. So I feel like, why is it that we're sending the message that Black trans lives matter?
We're not sending that message. I'm sending that message because I am Black, and I disagree that we do all face the same dangers. Much how you talked about the privilege that white folks have, you carry privilege based on your proximity to whiteness.
Okay.
Okay, and so I think it's important to say that Black trans lives matter because the majority of the girls being killed are Black. So if there is a lack of representation and advocacy for trans Latinas, then I implore you to make that up. I think that that's your responsibility, much like I take onus over Black trans lives matter.
I just feel like that if we're gonna go out and fight for rights as a whole, or fight for equality, or fight for us to be treated as human, I just feel like we can encompass it in trans lives matter in general.
Okay, all lives matter. All lives matter. Let's just say that. All lives matter.
If all lives matter, we wouldn't need to have this conversation. That's like, I'm sure you all seen, you don't show up to a breast cancer rally and start talking about prostate cancer. Have your own rally.
That's true.
Well, I'm mixed. I'm Puerto Rican and Black, so I understand what she's saying, because, you know, but I understand what you're saying too. You're representing for it's a little segregated, but I understand what you're saying.
It causes a
For
divide. It
for your
causes friction
girl.
within our own community
That
sometimes.
doesn't cause the divide. The divide is already there, and we see that based on the numbers of who's being murdered. So it's speaking to the divide. It's not causing it.
Yeah.
No, the murders are coming from outside of our community. I'm talking from within our own community. Saying Black trans lives matter causes a divide within our own community. That's what I'm saying.
But
Are you saying that some of the girls feel left out?
Exactly. But I see what you're saying.
There have been some Latinas that were in the 20s, that I don't even know the number, 21, 22, 18. There have been, but there have been more Black Lives Matter. But she's saying that her job as a trans activist, as a colored, a Black trans activist, is her representing the Black girls.
I guess
so what you can do, since you have a platform, is represent the Spanish girls when their numbers reach, you know.
I think, and it certainly has not. I started off championing trans women of color, and I still do. I still hashtag TWalk sometimes, and I think it's important to build solidarity between not only trans Latinas and Black trans women, but also Asian Pacific Islander trans women, because have we heard about the Filipina trans woman who was murdered by the U.S. Marine? Right, and of course he's claiming the trans panic defense that he didn't know.
She was cooked.
Right,
Yeah.
so I understand, I think that's important, but I have to say, because the majority of the girls who have been murdered this year are Black, that certainly Black trans lives matter. I think that's important, and when we think about who's doing or perpetrating a lot of that violence, I think that's my community that needs to hear that the most.
Now, why do you think that the Black girls are getting, the Black trans are getting, killed?
Well, I think it's for the same reason that Black men are getting killed by the police, and it's the same reason that Black women are getting killed by the police and by Black men. We need to all Black lives matter, right? That all
We're victims of victims, and what I think my opinion is because of the fact that mental health also plays a big part of this, and in the Black community, mental health has always been something that's been shunned upon, and that's something that a lot of Black community has gone decades and decades without proper mental health, because they always say, oh, take it to the church, take it to the Lord, and
pray on it, right?
Pray on it. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but sometimes you need a good therapist to get in there and see what's going on. Because if you get a good therapist to see what's going on, maybe you can stop some of this violence before it gets to where it is now. Because we've been talking about trans murders since the first season. The first episode of the first season, we were talking about trans murders.
That was Islam Nettles, the first one.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Tea Time with the Girls. We hope that you enjoyed this honest and frank discussion about trans visibility and trans empowerment. We certainly have made many improvements. I hope they'll have me back. But in the meantime, you can follow me at Chernobyko, and
as you all know, I'm Daniela Two Spirits Mendez from MTV's True Life and Botch Season 2 on the E! Channel. You can follow me at Two Spirits, that's with the Z at the end, on Instagram and Twitter, and you can like my Facebook page, Daniela Two Spirits Mendez, and that's Two Spirits with an S for Facebook.
My Facebook is Ashley Breve, and my Instagram is Barbie Twat.
Barbie Twat?
Yes.
Twat.
I was gonna put Barbie Pussy, but it was taken.
Barbie Twat. How do you go after that? Well, thank you again for having me here. We'll see you next time. Like I always say, love one another, share with one another, teach one another.
And my Instagram is Fox Giselle. My Facebook is Fox Giselle. If you don't know how to spell that, it's spelled right here on the screen here. And basically, I want to just end off by thanking everyone for coming out. Daniela,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out. Miss Biko, thank you for hosting. You did a wonderful job.
You did.
Miss Ashling.
Remember this. Trans is beautiful.
Yes.
And remember, and Miss Gia, thank you for coming out too.
Thank you.
And we want to send a special shout out to Aoki.
Aoki, we love you, sis.
girl.
You'll always be Aoki to us.
Aoki does. And remember, if you can't be real,
At least
Be real with yourself.
Average girl. It is tea time with the girls. Where the sexual take it up a notch.